My name is the not so great Melvoni. Now, I didn't start out with that name. I started out calling myself the great Melvoni, the great. But after a few performances, some people came over to me and said, you know, you're pretty bad. You got to lower your greatness level. I said, to maybe not so great, which I did. You know what bothered me that people came and told me that? They were members of my family. Yeah, my family. If you don't send money, they turn on you. You know. Recently I learned that in order to perform at some of these comedy clubs, you have to bring 6 friends, preferably drinking friends. Yeah. Well, I had I went to the club near me. I spoke to the manager. I says, "You have a senior, you have a senior citizen discount on a number of friends?" He's okay. You can bring, you could bring 3. Well, I had trouble with availability. I couldn't get any. So when I came back, I said none. He said none. I can't believe you couldn't dig up at least 3 old friends. I said, oh, I could have dug up 3 old friends, but the cemetery people, they wouldn't let me. They said, no dig. We don't dig down. We don't dig up. We only dig down. Yeah. This morning, I went to the supermarket, and by the supermarket there was a bulletin board, and on the bulletin board a whole bunch of business cards, and there was a bunch of advertisements. Then there was a big letter. There was a big note, and the note read, "Lost, 3-legged brown dog, blind in the left eye, partially deaf, recently castrated, answers to the name of," in big letters, "Lucky." That was Lucky. That's some Lucky. My Harry comes home from work, and he says to his wife says to him, "Harry, there's a problem with the old car." He says, "What's the problem?" "The problem is," she says, "there's water in the carburetor." He said, "You say water in the carburetor?" She said, "Yeah." He says, "You don't know anything about cars, motors, engines. You don't probably can't even spell carburetor." She says, "Harry, there's water in the carburetor." He says, "Never mind, darling. Where's the car?" She said, "Sweetheart, the car is on the bottom of the pool. That's where the car." My brother, history professor, calls me. He says, "You doing stand-up?" I said, "Yeah." "I want you to tell the audience," he said, "George Washington, besides being the first president, was probably the first stand-up comic." I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "Well, you remember see that picture of George Washington standing on top of in the middle of the boat being rowed across the Delaware River?" I said, "Yeah." Well, he says to his men, "Men, good news and bad news." They say, "What's the good news, General?" "The good news, you're changing your underwear today." Say, "Yay!" "What's the bad news, General?" "The bad news, you're changing with the guy rowing next to you." That's the bad news. When I was a doctor, everybody wanted to tell me jokes. I'm going to tell you the worst joke. Doctor walks into this 2-patient room. His patient's on the left. He says, "Smitty, bad news. Those mangled legs, we couldn't save them. They're gone." And I said, "Oh, that's terrible. What's the good news?" "The good news, this guy in the next bed, he wants to buy your shoes." Let me tell you about my grandson. My grandson having trouble getting a job. Problem with the job interview. He's, he he says, "This problem with the interview. Maybe I need advice." So he came to me for advice. I say, "Listen, first of all, I look at him and he looks like a horror movie." I said, "The ponytail hanging down to your ass, you got to trim it. The 2 rings, the one in your nose, the one in your ear, got to come out. All right? We have to get a shirt with a collar to cover up those dragon tattoos on your neck. Okay? And you can't wear jeans. And flip-flops. Okay?" So he takes my advice, and last week he goes for an interview. He goes in the interview spent a half hour discussing his resume. And after a half hour, the interviewer says, "Listen, one last question. What do you consider your worst character trait?" And he says, "My worst character trait? I think my worst character trait is honesty." And the interviewer says, "Honesty? That's strange. I wouldn't think that someone would consider honesty the worst character trait." And my grandson said, Honestly, who gives a shit what you think? Yeah, well, I don't know how many of you think you got the job? Yeah, yeah, you don't think so, huh? I went to the restaurant last week, and I noticed that all the waiters have spoons in their pockets. My waiter comes over. I says, "What's the story with the waiters with the spoons in their pockets?" He said, "Well, the owners believe in efficiency, and they found that the most common utensil to drop on the floor is the spoon. So it's more efficient not to go back to the kitchen to get another spoon. They just replace it." I said, "That's very interesting. Tell me, what about this string that's coming out of the fly, the waiters?" He says, "Well, they also believe in good hygiene and cleanliness. So when the waiter has to go to the bathroom to urinate, the string is tied around his penis. When he has to go to the bathroom to urinate, he doesn't touch his penis. He pulls it out with the string to urinate." So I said, "Oh, that's very interesting." I thought about it. I said, "Let me ask you a question. How does the waiter, after he finishes urinating, tuck the penis back in his pants?" And the waiter says, "I don't know about the other waiters, but I use my spoon." Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of you are wondering what this old guy is doing here at these clubs. Why isn't he performing on the senior citizen circuit, the old age home and a nursing home and a assisted living home? Well, they banned me. They told me my materials was too risky. I said, "You mean risque?" They said, "Yeah, your material's too pornographic." I said, "What the hell are you talking about?" They said, "Well, the first story you tell, suicide bomber goes up to heaven. Muhammad's up there." Muhammad said, "Bomber, good news, bad news." Bomber said, "What's the good news?" "Good news, there are 2 virgins left." Bomber says, "Good, good. What's the bad news?" Muhammad says, "The bad news, Mr. Good Good? You blew your dick off. That's the bad news." Then you told the story about Sam in the old age home. Yeah. His birthday, he's 92 years old, goes out in the hall, sees his friend Selma. "Selma," he says, "today's my birthday. Guess how old I am?" She says, "You want me to guess how old you are?" He says, "Yeah." She says, "Pull down your shorts." He pulls down her shorts. She bends down, cradles his testicles in her hands, and starts bouncing him up and down, going, "Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh." He says, "Well, how old?" She says, "Wait a minute." "Uh-huh." She says, 92. He says, "Yeah, wow, that's amazing. You could tell how old I was just by bouncing my little ballies in your hand." She says, "No." He says, "No, then how?" He said, "You told me yesterday how old you were." Then you told the story about Mrs. Russo goes to the fruit and vegetable store. She says, "Tony, 5 pounds of broccoli." He says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Russo, but we no got broccoli today." She says, "Isn't that the case? I'll just have 3 pounds. He says, no, maybe you don't hear me, but we don't got any broccoli." She said, "You know who's coming over tonight? Mario, Marie, the kids. They love when I make broccolini. And for broccolini, I only need 1.5 pounds." He says, "Mr. Russo, let me ask you a question. How do you spell cat as in catalog?" She says, C-A-T. "How do you spell dog as in dogmatic?" She says, D-O-G. "How do you spell fuck as in broccoli?" She says, "There isn't any fucking broccoli." "That's what I'm trying to tell you. There isn't any fucking broccoli." I was born and raised in Brooklyn. The problem I had was I lived on Avenue O. And living on Avenue O, the problem was, you ready? I had to walk 1 block to P. Avenue O, Avenue P. Never mind. Let me tell you about my father. My father was a plumber in the olden days, $5 a house call. Nowadays, before you call a plumber, you have to call your accountant or your financial advisor. 2 weeks ago, I had a leak in the kitchen. Called the plumber. He comes, fixes the leak. How much? $135. I said, "That's outrageous. Outrageous." "Listen, plumber, my doctor comes middle of the night in a snowstorm, makes the house only $50. Plumber said, "I know that. I used to be a doctor." Let me tell you about my mother. My mother was a good woman, but a terrible cook. When she was in the kitchen, She was like one of the fire dragons from the Game of Thrones, burned everything. When we were kids playing outside, if we saw smoke coming out of the open kitchen window, we knew a new pope wasn't elected. It was mother burning her favorite meal. Favorite meal? Crispy meatloaf, charcoal mashed potatoes. Crispy meatloaf so tough, you had to cut it with a chainsaw, a miniature chainsaw. Yeah. I was in the Army 2 years, never saw combat until later on when I became a junior high school teacher in Brooklyn. You know, schools are named after famous Americans, Washington, Lincoln, Jefferson. My school was called Al Capone Junior High School, recently renamed Tony Soprano Junior High School. Tough school. The teachers came to work with bulletproof bras. For lunch, every day the same menu, broken leg of lamb, okay? I was teaching magnetism, and the bell rings, you had to go in the hall, the teacher said the kids don't kill each other, right? And I come back, little bastard, they stole my magnets. I said, I'm getting out of this combat zone. I'm gonna go to medical school, become a doctor. I'll probably see less blood being a doctor than I will in this school. So I go to medical school, become a doctor. Let me tell you an unusual case I had. I go in the examining room, there's a man standing there in a raincoat. I say, Boris Tomaszewski? He says, yes, doctor. I said, what can I do for you? He's, doctor, I'm suffering erection malfunction. I says, erection malfunction? Could you be more specific? He says, Pacific? I'll be Pacific. He opens up the raincoat. He's naked from the waist down, and poking out is erection malfunction. He says, doctor, a week ago it went up, and it's been up all week, doctor. In the beginning, let me tell you, doctor, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But then I had trouble going to the bathroom to urinate, you know, take a leak. I said, I know what urinate means. He said, okay, what the problem was that the bowl was down there, the toilet bowl, and the stream from the erection malfunction was up here. I had to twist my body all the way over to get the stream of the urine into the bowl. And pardon the expression, doctor, but my pissing was missing. I'm missing the bowl and hitting the tank and the wall behind the bowl. The floor is getting all wet with poodles of urine. You know poodles? I said, I know poodles. Well, then my wife, Olga, says, Boris, enough is enough. I'm so sore down below, I can hardly walk. You got to go take care of this, go see the doctor, or your name is going to change. From Boris Tomaszewski to Boris cut your cock off. So, doctor, can you help me? You go on the examining table, I examine them, and I find a little bug on the shaft of the erection malfunction. I flick it off onto the floor, and the erection malfunction goes down and away. Boris says, hallelujah, doctor. That's wonderful. Thank you. How much do I owe you? I says, you don't owe me anything. There's no charge. But you have to help me find that erection bug. It's down, I think it's down there. So Boris and I find the bug. We form a partnership. We're renting out the bug. So you can reach me at www.peckapickerupper.com. You can reach me. 90 years ago, my father and mother made a timing error in the bedroom. The timing was very bad. My mother became pregnant with me then. The timing was bad because in the country there was a depression. My father was out of work, and they already had a baby. So they decided to postpone my birth for a couple of years. In the meantime, they had to do something about me hanging around, and they decided that in some fashion they would have to evict me from the premises. So for the next 3 months, my mother every morning would drink some gypsy concoction, rub her abdomen with schmaltz, and jump off the boardwalk in Coney Island onto the sand. However, I hung on to the umbilical cord for 9 months. And if it wasn't for my tenacity, all you people in the audience would be looking at an empty stage. Okay, I ultimately became the middle child between two brothers. My older brother, the firstborn, he was called the prince. My younger brother, the baby, he was called the angel. And me, the middle child, I was called the mistake. I was the middle mistake. Melvin the mistake, they called me. Melvin the mistake, yeah. In the early years, we were three little kids, wild and running around, getting into mischief, causing trouble, requiring punishment. Now, punishment nowadays, pretty easy. Child is sent to the corner for quiet time, or upstairs to the bedroom, which resembles Disney World and a media center. Right. Okay. But in the olden days, punishment was more harsh, more physical. My father would come home. He'd say, "Oh, line us up." He said, "Okay, who put the dead mice into the bed?" My two brothers on both sides of me went like this. I went like this. My father went like this. This went on almost daily for a number of years until we got smarter. We got smarter because we watched courtroom television. So then when my father came home and he said, "Okay, who tried to flush the cat down the toilet, okay, soaking the bathroom floor?" And we said, "We cannot answer any of your questions until we consult with our attorney." Now, if that didn't work, we asked for change of venue, and at the last resort, we threw ourselves at the mercy of the court and pleaded temporary insanity. Yeah. Well, as the years went on, later on, when we got older, we confronted my father about his way he treated the children, how the punishment was. And he said, "You know, you all three turned out okay, didn't you?" And I thought about that later on, and he was right. Because my older brother no longer gets migraine headaches. I stopped stuttering. And my younger brother doesn't wet his bed anymore. So we all three did turn out much better. Magic board is here. Welcome, comrades. I have in my hand a magic black ball. I have in this hand nothing. I'm going to take the ball, put it in this hand here, and make it disappear. I'm going to say, "Filigadoosh, a shinavarush." Filigadoosh, a shinavarush. And I'm going to make it disappear. All right? Good. Well, it really doesn't disappear. In here's a tunnel called the carpal tunnel. That's magic. The ball goes through the carpal tunnel. The forearm, the elbow, the upper arm, and into the axilla. That's the armpit. And there, it will magically reappear. Come on. Woo-hoo. Ah, here it does. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Wait a minute. Wasn't it a black ball? Oh, I remember it said on the DVD. No, not DVD. I know it said on directions. Sometimes when the ball goes through the carpal tunnel, breaks capillaries. The capillaries bleed. The blood gets absorbed by the ball, turns to red. But we can turn the ball back to black with magic. I'm going to say magic. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. And you're all going to say a magic word, pancytopenia. Okay? 1, 2, 3, pancytopenia, and the ball magically turns back to black. Thank you very much. Thank you. The next act second act was an old one-legged tap dancer by the name of Mr. Tippy. Mr. Tippy came on stage wearing a football helmet, elbow pads, and a knee pad. Elbow guards, knee pad. Which came in handy because after 1 minute, old Mr. Tippy had a senior moment. He forgot he only had one leg, thought he had two legs, and did a split like that. And we had to carry him off the stage with a wheelbarrow. The next act was a knife thrower and his assistant who was missing her left ear and the tip of her right thumb. After the knife thrower was supposed to be a lady sword swallower, but while she was backstage practicing the sword swallowing, 3 stagehands saw her technique, and they all proposed marriage. She ran off with one of them. The next to the last act was a big lady from Butte, Montana, called herself Fanny Fartmaker. She came out with an open can of beans and American flag. She swallowed the can of beans. She turned her back to the audience, bent over, and while waving the American flag, she farted the Star-Spangled Banner. After everybody sat down, the last act was an old magician. He's, howdy, my friend. My name is Grandpa Magic. Okay. I'm babysitting for my grandkids, watching the Grand Ole Opry. When I look up and they're standing there and they say, you know, Granddaddy, you're the best granddaddy in the whole world. You know what I said to myself? Oh, shit. That means they want something. And they did. They wanted a chocolate thick shake. Said they were thirsty. And they said, our other best granddaddy always gets it for us. So, oh, shit. Okay. All right, go get your magic wands. They go, I'm watching again. They come back and say, we can't drink it. The straw is too narrow. Straw's too narrow. We can't get the thick shake through the straw. I said, what do you want me to do? They said, aren't you supposed to be Grandpa Magic? Can't you do it with magic? Make it bigger? You want me to make a bigger straw? Supposed to be a magician? Yeah, I'll go get your wands. I gave them all wands. Okay, they came back. I said, give me the straw. I put it, I said, now, I want you to point to the straw. Everybody in the audience, we're going to say the magic word. I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. You're going to say, Alakazam, biggest straw. You ready? Everybody. Alakazam, biggest straw. Alakazam, biggest straw. Alakazam. I said, is that long enough? They said, yeah. Oh, no, you smart-ass kids. Oh, no, Alakazam, biggest straw. They never asked me for another thing. Let me tell you about my grandmother. My grandmother, like all grandmothers in the world, have an unconditional, uncompromising love for their grandchildren. This love is so blinding, they cannot see any imperfections. The grandkids can be pigeon-toed, knock-kneed, bow-legged. They can have pointy ears, bulging eyes, buck teeth, no chin, but the grandma, they're perfect and wonderful. Some grandmothers get carried away. If they see a little granddaughter standing on one leg for more than 5 seconds, they run to the store, and what do they buy? A pair of ballet slippers for the future ballerina. If they see a grandson, they see him walking around the house scratching his ass with one finger, scratching his ass repeatedly, they smile because they picture a future doctor, a proctologist. Now, one thing they all love to do is they love to babysit. They all love to babysit. Let me tell you a story. This young woman calls her mother. She said, Ma, I got an emergency in my office, okay, tomorrow afternoon. I can't get a babysitter. I need your help. Are you busy? And the mother says, well, not exactly. And the daughter says, what do you mean not exactly? So, well, I got this invitation from Queen Elizabeth to attend a reception at Buckingham Palace tomorrow. And the daughter says, oh, that's good, but it's too bad. So what do you mean it's too bad? Well, I told the children you'll be coming, and they said, oh, Grandma Nana coming? I said, did they say Grandma Nana coming? Yeah, well, I'll call Liz back, okay? I'll see you some other time. What time do you want me over? Should I bring the soup? She says, yeah, come over at 2 o'clock, bring the soup. So my grandmother goes to the butcher. The guy behind the counter says, what can I do for you, lady? She says, I'm making special soup for my grandchildren. I need a special chicken. He says, what's your special chicken? She says, a chicken from New Jersey. A chicken from New Jersey? Oh. He goes in the back, gets the chicken, puts it on the counter, takes a pinky, puts in the chicken's tuchus. Goes, No, this chicken's from Rhode Island. He says, yeah? Yeah. Takes the chicken, comes back with another chicken, goes out with the pinky. Nope, chicken's from Massachusetts. Got to be New Jersey. Okay, brings another one. She goes, does the pinky routine. She goes, oh, that's a chicken from New Jersey. Oh, that's going to make some soup. Oh, boy. Thank you, thank you. Wrap it up. He's wrapping it up. She says, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, thank you. tell me, how long you worked there? He says, I worked about 3 months. And where you from? He says, you want to know where I'm from? Where am I from? Pulls down his pants. You tell me where I'm from. And he turns around. He goes like that. Okay.